All right, boys and girls, welcome back. Sam's Army episode 2.226. We got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to start out with headlines, where we will talk Paquetá, Greenwood, and North versus South America. Weekly what if, whose injury would hurt the most? Premier League, Chelsea bad, Spurs good, and maybe some Tyler Adams talk. Round the world, got to give Spain a shout out, and then talk a little leagues and opens cups. Then stoppage time with Ivan Tony's best bets and everyone's favorite segment, Goas. But now it is time to welcome in this week's panel of beauties. First up, we got Mikey Podcast, who deserves a lot of credit for showing up this week, despite running on zero energy and zero sleep, I assume, after attending his sister's wedding this weekend. So first off, mazel to your sister. And second of all, your question, can you give us a quick either highlight or recap of the speech that I'm sure you must have given?
Um, it revolved mostly around a time when I was laughing at my sister and she punched me square in the face. That was when we were younger. So I told a story about how tough she was mostly, and that at the end of the day, she didn't really need anything. But she married an athlete that I competed against all throughout high school. And my sign off was that he apparently got the last laugh. So, so that's the long and short of it. Yeah.
That sounds like a good speech. When she punched you, did you cry?
I felt like a sack of bricks.
Amazing. That sounds like a good speech. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Also, we got Dalton Kemper of the USMNT Thoughts podcast. And of course, everybody knows him as the man who ensures that this podcast, is somewhat listenable week in and week out. So thank you for that, by the way. I don't thank you enough, Dalton. But also, we know you are a true, I was gonna say true blue, that's not right, true red Liverpool fan, which means you were slightly aggrieved by some of the things that were said by some nameless people. Not gonna say names. Actually, I will. It was Mikey on the season preview podcast a few weeks ago. So here's your chance.
Okay.
What was the one that you remember that you're like, it got you the most hot and bothered, and give us your response.
I'm gonna pick two that tie into one. So you get a two from Mikey. Which this is nothing I haven't told him, by the way. I did message Mikey right after. I was like, this is bullshit. The Liverpool finishing 8th or 9th and tied in with Klopp being gone by Christmas was I was like, you've got to be shitting me. And of course, me or Tyler was not on the episode to return fire.
That's right. Nobody was there to defend you. I know. So, I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. So I had to message Mikey. The blood was boiling. I'm glad Tyler made that bet last week though with you about Klopp being gone by Christmas. So I'll be rooting hard for Tyler to win that. And then absolutely praying that Liverpool finish above Arsenal this year and get the last laugh. So we'll see.
Can I ask Dalton? I love talking to you. Can I ask you a quick question? What in that 1 hour? In that 1 hour after Caicedo was confirmed, and those conveniently timed stories with Salah and Allison being linked to Saudi, did you think fucking Mikey for 1 second or no?
Yeah, I did. It was multiple seconds. It was really bad. I had it nowhere short of 5 people text me within that hour. To be like, hey, how's it going?
Is this gonna blow up?
Not good. Yeah. So,
right,
but
good.
yeah, I was in a tough spot there. I tell you what, though, after the news of Liverpool agreeing a deal with Caicedo, the 2 to 3 hours that night after that news came out, some of the best Twitter material I've ever seen in my life on soccer Twitter that night. So it was worth it in the end. But yeah, it was a tough little while there for Liverpool fans.
Well, you were coming off of a big win. You guys got the win against Bournemouth, so everything's out of water under the bridge, I assume, at this point, until somebody goes down injured. We'll see. Anyway, listen, we won't get into that quite yet. We'll start with headlines here, and we got to start with Lucas Paquetá. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing it. I would have normally said Paquetá, but or whatever, but it sounds like Paquetá is the way to say his name. So he was the did Mikey get the card that he was looking for?
For descent.
He got it.
What a degen. He's got like bets on specific players to get carded in Brazilian Serie A games. Just incredible. What a degen move. But well done. Congratulations to you. Well, speaking of Brazil, Lucas Paquetá. So he was in the news originally because he was linked to a move to Man City for over $100 million, which is just sort of the going rate for pretty much anybody these days, apparently. But then things changed and changed real quick. And now he's in the news because he is allegedly linked to a gambling scheme. Obviously that we've been through this before and probably will be through it again. I actually saw basically what he's being accused of was he got a yellow card in a very specific game against, I can't remember who it was, maybe Brighton or Newcastle, somebody last spring. And it was a very specific game where he and another player allegedly had to get a yellow card. The other player did not play in this game, he played in a different game. But somebody who he's linked with, he being Paquetá, put a rather large sum, or maybe multiple people linked to him put rather large sums on the fact that he was going to get a card and this other Brazilian player was going to get a card in a different game. And of course, they both got carded and the bets paid off. And if you go back and look at the play in question, it was one of those just like absolute obvious yellow cards. So a bit of a dicey situation. I watched the game against Chelsea this past weekend, and it was kind of weird watching him play and everything. And I don't even know if they brought it up on the broadcast at all. But this could be kind of a big thing. To me, this seems worse than, the things that Ivan Toney was accused and eventually admitted to, which was, betting on games that I don't think he was even playing in. This is bad. I don't know. Any thoughts on this, Mikey?
We're seeing in the NFL as well, with gambling and players having a say in it. I think in a league like in a sport like soccer, where there is so much decided by the brains and mentality of the players, there's got to be stricter punishment for things such as this. The Ivan Toney situation and the suspension is right around what I assume is going to be coming down in the case here. We'll see. I mean, the first one sets the standard, and the second lets you know if that was just a one-off or if this is going to be for real. So if they go soft here, I don't think they're going to be able to get back.
Especially since, granted, you could argue that this is a victimless crime, right? He got a yellow card, and the victim is ultimately the casino that had to pay out. But it's so much more. It's just worse in my mind that he was involved in basically saying, yeah, I'm going to get a card. I'm comparing it to Ivan Toney. What are your thoughts, Dalton?
Yeah, totally agree that if Ivan Toney got basically half a season, a little more, Paquetá, I think, is probably going to get an entire year because he was involved, if not more. It would not surprise me if the FA decided like this is a multiple year thing and you got to either find a move out of here or you're not playing. And then other federations kind of have to make a decision too of, do we want this guy involved? It makes it 10 times worse that he influenced something in the game to get someone paid. Like what Ivan Toney did was dumb as far as betting on other Premier League games, knowing he wasn't supposed to. What Paquetá did was infinitely dumber in my mind, of actually doing something and probably getting a portion of that pay. I don't know. Like that is, I assume, like what other reason would Paquetá have to do it than if he was going to get a cut or something like that? So props to the guy on Twitter, though. I don't know if you guys saw this. Whenever the line for whatever game it was came out, it might have been one of Mikey's friends because he probably was talking about cards. He was like, how is Paquetá, who's been carded once or twice this year, even to get booked in this match? I don't understand it, because there was so much activity on that line that it brought it that far down. So props to that guy for noticing it. Maybe he's what tipped off the FA, but yeah, not a good look at all.
I'm surprised Mikey's not linked to this guy. And in fact,
yeah, he might be.
I'm pissed I wasn't called.
as one of the world's leading card betting experts, it's strange that you weren't the guy who did this. But yeah, you're right. It would be interesting if it's just this random guy who ended up getting Paquetá caught up. But I agree. I think that it's so weird because he's out there playing and it wasn't even being talked about and everything. And yet in my mind, I'm
They
like,
did mention it a little bit on the
Okay.
broadcast. I do remember them mentioning it a little bit. It was like a little bit like, hey, this guy could be in some trouble.
I agree. I think that his suspension will be worse. I'm thinking a full year suspension, and this is right in the prime of his career. Wow, it just stinks. Okay, next up, speaking of a situation that stinks, Mason Greenwood. So, we've talked about this on the podcast before. Anybody who's been following the sport or the Premier League for a while, you probably know a little bit about it. I don't know that anybody knows everything about it, but what Mason Greenwood was convicted on Twitter of is very bad. I mean, there's apparently video and of him saying things and a picture that his I think current girlfriend posted on social media where she had like a bloody lip and everything. It's bad. But then of course it went to the courts, and I don't know if he was found not guilty or there just wasn't enough to charge him or something.
The accuser dropped the charge.
Oh, that's right. She dropped the charge. So Man
he was not found guilty. He was not cleared.
Okay, not cleared, not exonerated, but probably not charged because they took the
correct.
Okay.
Important difference though.
Yeah, true, very much. So this is, that distinguishes it from the Mendy situation anyway. So basically, Man United has kind of been sitting on this situation for a little while now, and it sounded like they were kind of sounding people out and seeing like, well, how would people feel if we brought him back? And I think the backlash was pretty clear. This is me. This is not some sort of thoughts that has been confirmed or anything like that. In my mind, it was like United is like, this guy is talented. We got to find a way to try and bring him back. And then they tried and then realized, no, this is not going to work. And they at least gave in and got rid of him. I don't know if that's the case or not.
No.
Well, okay, Mikey, what do you think happened?
They were going to bring him back by all accounts. If you read The Athletic, the Athletic did a great job covering him. And I don't know if you've seen this, Dalton, but they were, there were rumblings he was coming back, right? They were going to make a decision for him to stay. The Athletic blew up the story that they were panicking, that United clearly had made a rash, last minute decision here, and were trying to sneak it by the media, etc. What happened as a result was an internet backlash that had Manchester United front office that statement back, internal statement, I guess, if you will. And from there, what ended up happening was they in their statement, they specifically said that they found that he was not guilty of what he did, which was not consistent with what the court situation is and has been. And the last part of it was they're going to loan him. So I think that he either gains back his value or returns to Manchester United at some point, and they don't have to lose what they deem an asset for free. So all of it is, and this is my opinion, all of it just reeks of they're not putting on any hat other than the business one. Yeah. So there's not a real ethic discussion going on here within the front office of Manchester United, but there really hasn't ever been. So
right. In other words, they do not deserve credit for
for sure
doing
not
what a lot of people feel is the right thing. It's more even that they
like Mikey said. Even in their statement today, they were like, he was cleared, by the way, which Mikey said it's not true. He wasn't cleared of anything. He wasn't found not guilty. But even in their statement, they snuck that in there to be like, well, we know more than you about this, so we should be able to reinstate him to the team and you should be okay with it. When obviously everyone saw the pictures, have seen the transcripts, have heard the recordings. People know what this guy's done, whether he was found guilty in the court or not. Wasn't found not guilty, like Mikey said. So it's not like he's been cleared of anything. So they deserve no credit for this because they were absolutely going to bring this guy back. And social media did a good thing for once. So I will give props to social media for allowing that backlash to not have this guy back for now with Manchester United.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Well done, social media. You get maybe they'll get some votes for Goa this week. to the old social media. All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens now, because it does sound like he wants to keep playing. So we'll see what club steps up or steps down and makes that happen. We shall see. All right. Next up, we got Copa Inter-Americana. So this is an interesting competition that it sounds like they're trying to, get back up and running, essentially, because I think they kind of had something like this back in the day. But basically, it's CONCACAF and CONMEBOL reviving. I think it was a competition that was stopped in like the late 90s, where you basically have some of the top teams from each North America and South America. So the winners of the Copa Libertadores and the Copa Sudamericana in South America, and then North America, the Leagues Cup and CONCACAF Champions League. And they basically play each other in a one-off, and you determine the champion of the Americas, so to speak. So Dalton, will go with you first on this. You pro or con, or for or against this concept?
Massive fan. I've long thought that the best way for CONMEBOL and CONCACAF to reach higher popularity levels and challenge, maybe not challenge UEFA, but at least reach higher levels, is to not completely merge, but do as much together as you can, because CONMEBOL has the quality, and we have the United States market. So it would be a good combination for both. So I'm all for this, whether it be more Copa Americas together, whether it be club competitions together. I am all for every bit of this, whether it be, I don't even care if it's just because they want to have Messi play games against the South American teams. Whatever the reason may be, I'm a big fan of this, like, going forward, and for CONCACAF and CONMEBOL to do everything together possible, just because it makes a lot of business sense when you look at it.
This actually ties in with the next question that we're going to talk about, apparently the formal invitation that Inter Miami has received from CONMEBOL to compete in Copa Libertadores, but they just won the Leagues Cup, which means that they will be playing, or they would be playing, in this Copa Inter-Americana. So I don't know how that affects the Libertadores invitation. We'll get to that in just a second. Mikey, you basically echo Dalton's sentiments on raising the profile, raising the level, or do you see
makes no sense we're separate?
Okay. Other than the fact that they've got decades of I don't know, legacy, and are just better teams, and they would dominate our faces. Is that a problem?
It helps us immensely to compete against them.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, then that sort of ties in with the very next question. As I said, apparently Inter Miami has received a formal invitation from Copa Libertadores to compete in Copa Libertadores. And aside from the fact that it's just weird, and they're just like, well, Messi's there, so we're going to hand you guys an invite that, like, these clubs in South America fight tooth and nail for. And we're just gonna give you one of those. Mikey, what do you think? Is this two questions? Would Miami just get worked? And then kind of a corollary to that, would this be good for MLS?
I mean, it's hilarious, first of all, like, laugh out loud funny. The minute the headline came out, it's just like, they're going to be in the Champions League next. I'm just putting on my US soccer hat and thinking that this is only positive, right? There's going to be some Americans, maybe not in the next 6 months, but in the next year or two, that end up playing on this Inter Miami team, that will gain immense exposure and experience from this. So I don't know. The more we can get these teams to play in, other than, just MLS week in, week out, I'm fine with. I'm not worried about it. But yeah, it's pretty funny. Like, my first thought is how funny it is.
Right. It makes no sense. And we were all shitting on Nate Silver a few weeks ago when he's like, why isn't MLS playing in Champions League, or whatever the hell he ridiculous take. And then
he's
there's
still
this.
An idiot.
It's still an idiotic take, no doubt about it. But, like, then there's this, and you're like, well, I mean, at least it's based in some sort of reality. Are you for this as well, Dalton? Same reason?
Oh yeah. Usually, you'll get these money grabs that come along where it's very obvious what the motive is, but that's the world we live in, right?
Listen, the soccer world, money makes the regular world go round, but soccer, it makes it go around a lot faster. That's all we got for headlines. Weekly what if time. So the KDB injury, it sounds not great. He needs surgery. He'll be out a while. So the fact that he got injured and Harry Kane, rest his soul, is gone, just sort of got me thinking. If there was a long-term injury to one player, what play and which player and which club, in terms of like what is it? What I said before we get on the podcast, that like I didn't know how to frame this question, but basically like one player, one injury, which team would get hurt the most? You go first, Mikey. Who you got?
All right, fine. It's Endo at Liverpool.
I knew you were gonna do this. I know 100%. If I went first, I was gonna say it so you couldn't. That's what I was gonna do.
If on whenever the deadline ends, the day after Endo blows an ACL, that is the most devastating injury to any team in the EPL right now. I think there's significant cover. No, my real answer is probably William Saliba. We saw what happened at the back end of last year with Arsenal when he was not playing. I think he's transcendent. I will say that, coming off the heels of today. I think that he is. I honestly believe the contract renewal was the signing of the summer for Arsenal. So that's my real answer, is William Saliba. But Endo would be really funny. Not for him.
Yeah. Or me.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah.
Dalton, who you got?
There's a couple I can't like separate from, so I'm just gonna say them both. The homer pick is Virgil van Dijk. The guy, he had some issues last year, as we know, but like this year so far, preseason, he looked great. First 2 games this year, he's looked incredible. So losing Virgil again would absolutely derail everything. Also, when you look at who's behind him, Joel Matip, Joe Gomez, it would be really bad if Virgil were to go down again, especially just with the form he's in right now. And I actually think, not funny enough, but kind of weird, I don't think City losing De Bruyne could be their biggest loss. I actually think it would be Rodri. I think if
Agreed.
City lost Rodri, I think that would actually be an injury that would be like, that takes them below Arsenal. And I think Arsenal become the favorites if Rodri would have sustained this. So that's my two for. I think those two are two of the most important players to their teams in the Premier League.
That's interesting you say that. You took Rodri from me. That's who I was going to say.
Oh, my bad.
It's okay. I mean, we agree. I mean, he in the last year or two, I mean, I've become a huge Rodri fan. He does everything. And I do think that, I don't know if City go below Arsenal. I'm not willing to go that far, but I do think that he is maybe the most important player. I was trying not to say MVP, but it basically most important player to any team in the league. I'm sure we're forgetting a couple people, so hit me up with who we forgot on that. But we'll move on to the Premier League, because we're going to keep it moving this week. Mikey, we just don't want him to fall asleep on the podcast. So Premier League, interesting week of results here. Some of the highlights, I would say, well, as a homer, I would say Tottenham dominating United's face-off, which is definitely an overstatement, but we won 2-0. And Tottenham felt fun again, it's a new experience, and I loved it. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more of that. Man City basically, handled Newcastle at home 1-0. West Ham beat Chelsea 3-1. A couple other results in there, but Mikey, let's go to you first. Which of the results this weekend did you find most interesting?
Interesting. I always struggle with that word with this definition here. Interesting is probably West Ham Chelsea. Dalton, I have to just pick your brain as a Liverpool fan. Was that the most fun result of all time?
The last 30 minutes of that game were the most fun I've had watching soccer in a long time, because the memes that came out of the Caicedo mistakes notepads, top tier.
So good. So I would say the most surprising to me, Sam, is West Ham Chelsea. And then, yeah, I'm going to avoid saying the Arsenal one because I felt like this was a great opportunity for Arsenal to drop points if you're a fan of anybody else in the league. And I thought the result was a little bit surprising for where they are as a team right now. I don't think they're fully where they need to be. So I was happy and surprised with 3 points, despite that being, not my answer.
I got a take for you on that Crystal Palace game. I think that there was a better chance for you to drop points if you hadn't lost a player at the end, because maybe Palace catches you on the break or something. Whereas when you guys went down a man, you just sat back, and Palace didn't really have the answers. They didn't have anybody to break you down. So that might be a bit of a hot take, but that was my feeling when you guys went down a man. And by the way, that red card, wow.
We'll get there.
Wow, that was bad.
We'll get there.
All right. Well, and by the way, you commented on my use of the word interesting when I asked, and I intentionally leave that broadly, sort of allow you to go in whichever way you want. So, Dalton, same question for you. Which result from the weekend did you find most interesting?
It was, for me, it was Spurs United, because United, first of all, against Wolves in the first game did not look good. So I fully expected them to bounce back against a Tottenham team that's in transition, no Harry Kane, all these different things. But when you watch that game, like, Ainge has been the manager for a couple months now, but at 2 actual games. But his fingerprints are all over that team and the way he wants that team to play, and it's working. I mean, they're playing in that way, and it's working that way. And you did beat United. And United, I look at them, and we're a year into the Ten Hag era, and I have no idea what his vision is and what he wants this team to play like. And like, it just looks so disjointed. And then you watch Tottenham, and I don't know if it was just an off game for United, a couple off games, but they looked way out of whack, and Tottenham looked like they knew what they were doing. And if you would have asked me who has the newer manager, and I had no idea, I would have said United, because they look like they don't know what they're doing out there as a team.
I think that's fair. The thoughts I had coming out of that game were, as I said, number one, I just had fun watching that game. And yeah, I had some fun watching the Brentford game, but the defensive mistakes sort of, tempered that a little bit. We didn't have any huge mistakes in this game, and we played, up-tempo style. We were sort of moving forward. It just felt like, as you said, it felt like a team that had a coach who had been there a little bit longer than 2 games.
What a baller Basuma is, by the way.
And finally, I like all last season, I'm like, where is Basuma? Where is Basuma? And that game, maybe him and Sarr, both, maybe this was their coming out parties. But it was just fun to watch Tottenham again, which is just, it's so nice. Like, we just have not had that. Even when we were winning some games under Mourinho, even when we were winning some games under Conte, it wasn't fun. It was like a task to watch them. Like, we just had to sort of like get your mind right. Well, I guess we have to deal with this because this is how teams win. And like, we're not used to that, but we're also not used to the sort of the dour way we were playing. Like, if Ange comes in and we give up a bunch of goals, and we give up some leads and we lose, but we're playing fun, fuck it, I'm down with that. So it felt to me like at this juncture, that was as good a performance, as good a 90 minutes as Tottenham is capable of. I don't think we can play better than that. I know United can play better than that. So I think we perhaps caught them on an off day, or maybe they're just not together because they didn't play well against Wolves in the first week. But to get to United, you make a good point, because I was a big fan, and I still am actually, of Ten Hag. I thought he came in and I thought he did what needed doing. Like, that locker room was just so toxic. There were so many problem children, and so much dead wood, so many bad contracts, so many just bad players. And you got to give him credit. He did a lot to sort of get the train back on the tracks. Now, what has he done since then to get him, into a club or into like a squad that you're like, okay, this is their this is what they're trying to do. This is like their DNA. This is what they really are, all about. Now on that, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm with you, Dalton. Mikey, what are your thoughts on where United are right now in the Eric Ten Hag era?
Lacking leadership. I think that they have a lot of good pieces, and they have a manager who has a vision. And I don't think they have a player that connects the vision of the manager to the 11 playing on the field. And I think that's a major issue. And there's one more step to go. If United bring in somebody that understands what Ten Hag wants and understands the league and understands the players around him, I don't want to say like an Odegaard, but there seems to be a relationship between the captain or a talisman player on major successful teams and a direct. You think of Benzema and Ancelotti, you think of guys who just seem to understand each other. That could not be more opposite in Bruno and Ten Hag at the moment.
I was gonna say maybe Casemiro could be that guy, but I don't. You need like the captain and the best player, and then that person to be.
I just think that you need someone that understands. Ten Hag's got a very specific style. I mean, he's signing the whole fucking Dutch league, so I think
Anthony's worked out.
Might be the wrong guy. Yeah, right. Yeah. So like, I think that there needs to be there's a player left there, and I think it's a leader.
So they need that one. They need that one piece. They need that one piece. As a like, granted, I think when he came in, they needed about 12 pieces.
Yep.
Right. And it was almost addition by subtraction in some of those situations. So, I've seen a lot of people getting on Ten Hag lately, and I think it's a little too early. I think that it takes time, and to get that one piece, by the way, usually is kind of expensive. Perhaps the Glazers are giving him pushback on that. I don't know, but yeah, United will have better days. That was not a good day for them. And by the way, when I say Spurs dominated their face-off, like, United had a ton of chances, and their finishing was atrocious. Like, maybe that the one person, the guy they need is a 9, because Rashford is not that guy. That he needs to play out left. What are the results? So we talked about West Ham. Did we talk about West Ham? You did. West Ham, Chelsea. We've talked about Tottenham United. Any other games? I mean, so there was the Forest. Matt Turner looked pretty good, I will say. Forest pulled that out. A squeaky bum game. Liverpool, even on a red, looked just plain better.
Dumbest. If we're talking about red cards, real quick, one of the weakest red cards I've seen. They've applied for it to be rescinded. I would assume it's going to be, but I don't know with who even makes the decision, at the FA or the PGMOL.
I would assume maybe the FA on the appeal.
I'm
going to disagree with you there.
You think it was the red?
5-10 years ago, and beyond that, absolutely, that's not a red. In this day and age, you come in with your studs showing and you catch the guy in the shin, it's just going to be red. It just
Gakpo got one to the chest last year, and
that's true. No, it's true. It's not always called. It's not always called. Yeah. But for me, when it was right in front of the ref, and when it happened, I was like, "Ooh, that might be bad." And yeah, came back. There was actually a play in the Spurs game that was very similar, and they didn't give him a red. So it happened.
Yeah. Did you see that McAllister, after the tackle, he was like kind of chuckling a little bit, like, "Oh, my bad. That was like, I missed it there." Yeah. And he thought he was going to get a yellow. He looks up, the ref is holding a red card. He sees the color, and his face just goes from like, "Oh, my bad," to "Are you kidding me?" Like, it was an insane switch. So stupid red. The game overall, I just thought last year, Liverpool collapses after that start. So I was very happy to see them bounce back, and there was a couple of chances where Liverpool could have collapsed. The start where goal called back for offside, and then Bournemouth actually scored in like the 3rd minute. Terrible start to the game. And then after the red card, Liverpool collapsed after that last year too, instead of scoring another. So promising signs, very happy for that. Sucks McAllister got that red, to miss him for like the Newcastle game especially. But overall, I'm not mad about the performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arsenal probably same thing. There's, in years past, not last year, but the year before that and back a few years, Arsenal, after they get that red, you wouldn't have gotten a win. You would not have gotten 3 points out of that as well. Everton, by the way, I actually came out of the game against Fulham thinking like, okay, Everton, not so bad. Like they should have got that win against Fulham. Wow, did they get worked by Aston Villa this week? And somebody was asking me on Twitter, like, they're like a new Everton fan who's like, how bad is it? I was like, well, I don't know anymore.
Still time to jump ship.
Yeah, you may want to reconsider.
Quick shout out to Brentford as well. Also speaking, a lot of weak ass red cards. The red card on Tim Ream also very.
There were
weak.
5 this weekend.
And were any of them legit? I mean, like I didn't see the Wolves.
Tomiyasu should actually serve some jail time.
Yes.
I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. I'll be completely honest.
I think Mikey's going to bring it up at some point, so we'll leave it there for now. We're going to skip power rankings and go right into, well, actually 2 things to talk about quickly before we get to the weekend preview. Number 1, thoughts on Tyler Adams to Bournemouth, Mikey?
You said that funny. Burnley?
Did I say Burnley? Bournemouth. Sorry.
I said Bournemouth, I think.
Bournemouth. Yeah. Listen, my brain, it doesn't work very well. We all know that. Tyler Adams to Bournemouth. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's going to play a lot in the top 2 divisions in England, and I think that's all that matters. I'd rather him be there than Chelsea or any of these things. I think you saw this with the Dest move as well. We talked about how the next club for a lot of these players is going to be crucial back when we were talking about the national team. And I think this is a place where he will play and be deemed, he's going to be playing in a side very similar to the quality of the U.S. national team side. So I think it's a good move. And I think he's going to, as long as he holds that position down and gets trusted for 90 week in and week out, I think this is only a good move.
I think that
Leeds is a disaster. Sorry, Larry, but like they got guys sitting out. They got guys not wanting to come to work anymore. They got 3 players they need to get rid of that the whole world knows they need to get rid of. So I think this is much more.
That situation is tough. And I know Larry and TJ are probably, they're in a tough spot, but hopefully they'll figure the contract situation. It's always hard, right? When you go down, and whether you were expecting it or not expecting it, but thought it was a possibility, it's just a tough situation. Now the Bournemouth, I think Tyler Adams, if he's healthy, could be great there. I think he's good. That's like a perfect situation for him, way better than Chelsea. I'm assuming he probably wanted to go to Chelsea. I assume he probably was getting a much nicer bag there. But I think Bournemouth is a great spot for him if he's healthy. I keep hearing all these rumblings about him not quite being right. And I know some people who are really plugged in who were shocked that he passed the medical to make that deal happen for Bournemouth. So I'm just hoping he's healthy. And if he is, I think it's a great spot for him. What do you think, Dalton?
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, wish it was to Liverpool because he's exactly what Liverpool need. He's like not your world beater 6 yet. He is. I think he could this position. Like if it's not Liverpool, I like this a lot for him. He's going to be in a side that, like, he was asked to do a lot at Leeds when he was healthy. He was the guy to put out fires on the counters, which came a lot against Leeds because they were so forward. At Bournemouth, at least, he's going to be put in better positions, I think, and he'll have a solid team around him. And tactically, I think he's in a better position. It's just about he's got to stay healthy. And we know of his injury issues, but like this is a big year for him, this Bournemouth move. So I do wish him the best. I hope he plays incredibly well and dominates. But it's a good move for him, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he does something so well, like as a disruptor. And just an energy guy and just being everywhere where he's needed. He is just world class. Like obviously there's things he needs to work on, like distribution and stuff. And hopefully, Bournemouth, when he's not being asked to do everything at all times, like he was at Leeds. And I think he did pretty good, all things considered. Hopefully he's just going to get better and better, because him, like Pulisic, like Musa, like Gio, all these guys, they're still so young. They still got so much growing and more development to go. I want to talk about Brighton, but we're going to save it for next week because they just keep winning, and chances are they're going to do it again. Well, I won't say that. They got West Ham at home, but so they could certainly win that, although Chelsea would, argue it's not an easy game. But which game this weekend, Dalton, are you most intrigued by going into the weekend? We got Newcastle hosting Liverpool. We got Brighton hosting West Ham, as I said, United hosting Forest, Arsenal hosting Fulham. What game stands out to you?
It's a boring pick, but it's Newcastle Liverpool. As a Liverpool fan, I have been terrified of this game ever since the whistle went on Saturday against Bournemouth.
I thought you were going to say ever since the Saudi Arabian deal went through.
Ever since that too. But Newcastle, I know they're still pissed about last year, whenever there was added time that went above and beyond at St. James Park, which get used to it with the way that team plays, because that's a lot of time wasting. It bit him in the ass against Liverpool last year, and we won it to death. And I know they're still pissed off about that. So the fans are going to be pissed off and motivated. It's going to be a very tough environment. I don't know if Indo starts or what. I don't know what the deal is in the midfield. McAllister, if he can't play, that's a big loss. So I am bracing myself for a really bad result on Sunday, if I'm being totally honest. I am terrified of what is going to happen. So that's the most interesting one for me, because it looks bad. Just looking at it right now, I'm really scared.
There's no shame in being a little scared of Newcastle, right? I mean, they're a very, very good team, and it showed last week. A good team can lose 1-0 to Man City very easily.
That being said, if Liverpool wins at St. James Park on Sunday, we're winning the title. So.
Right, of course, that's how it works. Mikey, what game you
got? I have a number behind my back, Sam. 1, 2, or 3. There's 3 games I'm very interested in.
2.
That's Brentford Palace.
Of course, you'd say Brentford Palace.
I like that game. I do like that game. I think there's a lot of young, interesting talent on display in that game. I was impressed with Palace today. I think Eze is going to have an impact in this fixture in particular, and Mbuemo is my fantasy cheat code, so I like that one. The other 2, just quickly, one sentence. Everton Wolves is an early relegation 6-pointer that I'm interested in. I think Wolves, I said, look better than the drop. And if they really are, they're going to have to get a result at Goodison. And I think that that's the difference between a team that looks good and goes down and looks bad and goes down, is can you get that level that you played at against United when you go into Everton. And then the joke one was going to be another relegation 6-pointer with Chelsea hosting Luton, but we don't have to worry about that.
That's fair. I was going to make a crack a joke on that one as well, but I'll let it go since you did. Everton Wolves was actually the one I was picking out, because Everton, that first game was like, okay, Everton, decent, probably should get a win, and then they just looked awful against Aston Villa. So it was kind of like, well, let's see what we got here from Everton, because if they lose this game, they're in a world of hurt. Okay, round the world, we're going to make this quick. Leagues Cup, first of all, I mean, we've talked about it sort of ad nauseum, and obviously when you talk about Leagues Cup, you can't talk about anything other than Messi. Or at least start out talking about Messi. It did feel scripted, honestly. Like, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I don't actually think it was scripted, but man, did it not? Am I the only one that actually thought, you know what? This might have been scripted in some way, just the way, like, with Messi and everything. Mikey,
Liga MX fans agree.
They're just so good, man.
Comparatively speaking, Inter Miami,
the quality is a different place.
Well, listen, it was an awesome competition. I don't know if it was kind of extra hyped up and we were extra excited about it because this is like Messi's, debut and all that. I guess we'll see. but it worked out well. I know that there's obviously problems and flaws. We talked about them a lot last week. This was not fair for Liga MX teams. And you could argue that the CONCACAF Champions League is equally sort of unfair for MLS teams coming off of the winter break. But it did kind of stink that they had to travel around, the country without going home for a month. That's just obviously a big asterisk. But shout out to Nashville. Obviously, they did well. And Miami is just, they're Miami, which is, we used to say Inter Miami is Inter Miami in a very different way. And now we're saying they are very good. Okay. US Open Cup. So this is just a quick reminder. We have speaking of Messi, we're not getting away from Messi. We got more Messi here. This week is US Open Cup semifinals. So Cincinnati hosts Inter Miami, and Messi on Wednesday, followed by Houston Dynamo hosting Real Salt Lake. So we are down to nothing but MLS teams, no Cinderellas in the semifinals, but Cincinnati Inter Miami especially is going to be, this should be a great game. Actually, I know Real Salt Lake has been playing a lot better. Houston Dynamo coming off a big win at the weekend. So, those games will be obviously very entertaining, very interesting. And if Inter Miami goes through that, obviously people are going to keep talking about the scriptwriters. Finally, round the world, we got to talk about Spain. First of all, Mikey, did you basically call this, or did you say England over Spain? I can't remember.
No, I said Spain. I said Spain over England.
Right. You've been saying Spain over England for weeks in a row. So shout out to you. Well done on that. Spain, the amount of just sort of turmoil surrounding the team, if this goes back years with the basically 15 players saying we're not going to play for this coach anymore. The coach, by the way, he's still there. Most of those players did end up coming back. A handful of them were not brought back, but it seems like, and I don't know if people are looking too far into like certain little highlights and maybe kind of handshakes that people snubbed and stuff like that. It did kind of seem like the players weren't necessarily buddy with the coaching staff. Like after they won, there was like a celebration pod of the coaches and there was a celebration pod of the players. It's just, obviously there's a lot going on there. And then to add to the, and so there's that situation, which obviously was not great for anybody. And yet they went ahead and just won the whole damn thing. So well done to the players. Then it just kind of got back to the same old turmoil right afterwards, where the Spanish Federation president like basically kissed one of them on the lips. During the celebrations, it was on TV and everything, and she tweeted later that like she did not like that. So obviously that turned into a whole big thing, and rightly so. And then not only that, but then that same federation president, during like the celebration or trophy lift or soon after it, he was like caught on video or on the TV like grabbing his crotch and just in like what are you doing? Like what are you doing, man? What's going on with you? Just a very strange series of events, and I can't imagine that the federation president somehow survives this, although I would have probably said the same thing about the coach 12 months ago, and he did. So God knows. But just a shout out to the players, because they're the ones that ended up going out there and winning the tournament, and well deserved. We're going to get that ass in 4 years, but for now, felicitaciones to our Spanish amigas. Okay,
it's never coming home.
It's never
coming home.
It's I'm glad you pointed that out. It's never sorry blokes and what's the blokes and birds, whatever. Anyway, around the world, that's done. We will head to stoppage time now. Quick recap on Ivan Toney's best bets of last week. Of course, the overtrain is still cooking. Well, we went 1-1. I got the Bolivia game, Bolivar 3-0 over Libertad Gran Marmore. But unfortunately, Spurs and United, how that didn't go over, I will never understand. I think it's basically United's finishing, basically cost us money and cost them points. But I'm not necessarily complaining about that. This week, though, Who wants to be the volunteer to give their Dalton? Looks like you're ready to go.
I have two very simple ones, and I
Okay.
can't believe these are available. Inter Miami plus 120 against Cincinnati on Wednesday. Anytime you can get Miami plus odds until they actually lose, I'm going to continue to take it.
Okay.
And then you can get Miami at plus 160 against New York Red Bulls on Saturday, which feels crazy that they're less favored against the New York Red Bulls, which I don't know if the books are like, it's a lot of travel. They're not going to be up for it. Like Mikey said, the quality gap is a lot right now. So if I see a plus sign by Inter Miami until I get proven otherwise, I'm taking it.
That's fair. I think what you said right there is exactly the rationale that they're going to be coming off this Open Cup semifinal. That maybe they'll rest a guy or two, especially coming off of the League's Cup when they're probably not going to rest anybody in the semifinals. So I think that's probably what the odds makers are thinking there. But okay, yeah, I can't disagree with you there. Mikey, what do you got for us?
So I'm going through the midweeks because there are a lot of tiny qualifiers to be played. PSV has been kicking the shit out of everybody that played, and you're going to get them again at Glasgow Rangers at plus 135 tomorrow afternoon. And I think that's just criminal. If you had to tell me to do two, I'd put them with Copenhagen, who's also plus 180. I think both those teams are. I've watched a lot of these shitty qualifiers in the last 3 weeks while we waited for things to get back. And the Polish team that Copenhagen's playing against stinks, and Rangers stink. So I'm going to go with those two. And if you put them together, honestly, I think you could be quite the millionaire. So I'm going to get you those odds right away.
Okay. Listen, I've been watching a lot of those qualifiers as well. It's a nice little, it's a nice little activity to do on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, mid-afternoon when you should be working.
Yeah, plus 552, and I'm putting it in right now.
Ooh, that's nice. And by the way, PSV, I like that as a landing spot for Sergiño Dest. Obviously he feels comfortable in the league, and I just think he needs to get back to focusing on soccer, and I think he could still be just the guy that we know him to be. And actually he was at that level when he played with the USMNT. It's just he's got to find that for club. Okay, Overtrain. I'm going to stick with my two offerings for the week. I'm going to go England on Friday. This is, I think it's on Friday. Is it on Friday or Saturday? Actually, Saturday, excuse me. England on Saturday, Barrow hosting Wrexham. And if you have not been following what Wrexham is doing, they are just an over-betters wet dream. They were last year. They are this year. The last game they played was against, let's see, Swindon, 5-5. Just a casual 5-5, no big deal. Before then, the results were 4-2. And before that, I don't even know what it was. But anyway,
that's crazy.
Right.
They made Ben Foster retire.
If you give up 5 to Swindon, I guess that's time to call it quits. Listen, Wrexham, and they get scored on a ton. They've scored 13 so far this season. They've given up 13. Okay, so they are an over-betters wet dream. They play Barrow. Barrow is not exactly high scoring, but I think if you come up against Wrexham, I just think that, especially on the road, Wrexham is on the road. This has got goals written all over it. So Barrow, Wrexham on Saturday. Then on Sunday, we're going to go to Iceland, and we got Vikingur Reykjavik versus a team that is one of my team nightmares to actually say, even though I bet them each week. I'll give it a shot. Breidablik, one of that. So Vikingur Reykjavik versus Breidablik, that has goals written all over it. Both those teams score and get, especially Breidablik gets scored on. So there's your two. Let's go get rich. And we will finish this week's episode up, of course, with everybody's favorite segment, Goas. Dalton, I feel like we'll hand the pleasure of going first to you, because I don't want to, even though you stole my Rodri in the weekly what if, I forgive you for that, and I'll allow you to go first.
All right, deal. I was gonna say Ben Foster because he did retire today after they've given up 13 goals in 4 games, I think, so far this season, and that's just hilarious that he's like, I can't do this anymore. He's like, I'm out of here. So cool move by him. I do respect that. And then my real go was Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia, because I'm incredibly petty. A lot of soccer fans are incredibly petty.
Yeah.
And we touched on it earlier, but seeing Caicedo come on and have one of the worst debuts I've ever seen a player have in the Premier League, especially of $140 million price tag, was pretty poetic, I think. And for Romeo Lavia, who says, yeah, I chose Chelsea because of the project, definitely not the massive 8 or 9 year prison sentence at that club, to not even make the squad. And I just think it's going to be hilarious whenever Romeo Lavia gets some game time. Expect the same treatment from Liverpool fans of, not letting it go for at least this season of these two players. Caicedo is going to be under the microscope. So is Lavia. So watch your step. Those two are my two Goas. I don't wish anything bad against them. I just wish them to play poorly. That's all.
No, listen, I always give Mikey a lot of shit and credit for the amount of pettiness that he's capable of. Just from a fan base perspective, though, I think Liverpool might take the cake. You guys were on Harry Kane's ass for years. And I don't even know what it was. I think it was him like scoring that goal that may or may not have come off his foot. And it was in like the golden boot race with Mo Salah.
Yeah.
I don't actually remember why you guys were so on his ass, but the fact you were for years over that was.
We don't forget.
You
we
do
not forget.
You do not. And I respect that. I respect that. Mikey, who you got?
Quickly brushing by Olga Carmona, who scored the game-winning goal in the Women's World Cup final, and then after the match received the news that her father had passed away. That is the most Jimmy Valvano day of them all, and you have to give a shout out there. But I'm going to use this space, like the around the horn 30 seconds, to absolutely shame what's been going on in the front office of the New England Revolution in the last 24 hours. Selling Petrovic right as the window opens for the supporter shield, with a little bit of a crack from Columbus, I think is shameful, really. 16 million. Could have waited till January. Disgraceful. The lack of clarity on the Bruce Arena situation is fucking embarrassing still. And then last but not least, there's an email sent out today from the ticketing office that said, did you see Messi won against Nashville FC? Which, first of all, morons, in the League's Cup final. Messi has scored 10 goals in 7 straight appearances. That means you have a 100% chance to see the Argentines score against us at Gillette next season. Renew your season ticket today.
What?
That,
oh my God.
That,
what?
to me, is one of the more disgraceful things and shameless things a club has done. And it happens to be one I support loosely now. This is a fucking dumpster fire. And Carlos Gil could probably play at Luton tomorrow. So pack your bags and get your ass out of town. They're still playing in a football stadium in Foxborough. They're emailing, come see Messi score on our ass, and selling, and they have a manager on the payroll who they're not talking about. This is fucking embarrassing. So I needed to take the space to do that.
I think that's fair. It's both shameful and shameless.
It's so bad. It is so bad.
That's terrible. And I'm glad you brought up the Bruce Arena situation, because like Mike McGee, who I know well, he's been outspoken about this situation, and he's like, he's basically said, listen, I know Bruce Arena. I can't believe anything. I have a hard time believing whatever is about to maybe come out is true. And, the fact that they haven't said anything, though, is just mind-boggling. Like you can't just ignore it and think it's going to go away. That's not how this works. So, and it's also not fair to Bruce Arena, especially if it comes out, because like the longer you wait, sort of the more he gets I don't know, sort of guilty, and like somebody from somebody mentioned it on another podcast or something, like something race related, even though that hasn't come out at all. It's just like all these sort of assumptions and guesses basically, get stuck to him with when nothing has actually come out. So it's just a terrible situation, and they need to address it. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And then the stuff on top of that Mikey just added, yeah, that's bad. So I think that's exactly what goals was meant for. So well done, Mikey. So at my actual goal was going to be Olga Carmona. But I'll switch it up. Yeah, I'll switch it up. No, it's fair. Just the fact you win the World Cup and then find out that, your dad passed is just like, I can't even wrap my head around that. Lucy Bronze, who, told Gianni Infantino, well, she didn't tell him anything, but like he reached out to shake her hand when he handed her the medal. And she was like, I don't even see you. She just completely walked past him after some of the guy needs to stop talking. Anytime he talks, I know English probably isn't his first language, so I guess maybe we got to be a little bit hesitant about just completely shitting on him, but like, then just don't talk. Don't say anything. My goal though, I'll do a little switch up, is Drake Callender. So he just came on the podcast. I don't like giving it to goalkeepers, but he's not a goalkeeper when he's your goalkeeper and when he's in Sam Fan. So we're gonna allow it this time. Drake Callender. So he was awesome in Leagues Cup. He saved the penalty to win it. He right before saving it to win it, he scored the penalty. So obviously great great weeks. In fact, for Drake Callender, just well done to him. And if you haven't listened to the interview, he's a cool dude. So go back in a couple weeks ago and listen to that. And that's all we got. Mikey, I told you I was going to keep it short, and I absolutely failed, but I really do appreciate
it's my fault. I like talking to Dalton.
Listen, it's good. When you start talking, when I get on the phone with somebody, I talk about 5 seconds and it's over. My friends, if they ever listen to this, which they never would be absolutely dumbstruck to hear me talk for longer than 5 seconds. But that's what soccer is all about. So Dalton, you're the best. Thank you for all that you do, and also for coming on. We'll see you again soon, Mikey. Thank you. And everybody who's listening, really appreciate you guys. We will see you next week.